Denmark's Kurt Nielsen on the left and Vic Seixas of America together on the centre court. Nielsen serves. Seixas, a master of every stroke in the book, slams them back at his opponent. Nielsen's shot is out. The 22-year-old Dane, an unseeded player, loses the first set. He serves again. Nielsen twists and turns to get it back, but he hasn't an answer to the American's deadly attack. Seixas leads 9-7, 6-3 at the end of the second set. The Duchess of Kent watches the American make the match point service. But it's out. Seixas tries again. Vic Seixas wins the world's premier lawn tennis title. A congratulation from Nielsen, a terrific reception from the crowd, and now the Wimbledon trophy is presented by the Duchess of Kent to the 1953 champion, Vic Seixas.
America's Tony Trabert and Vic Seixas meet Lou Hode and Ken Rosewall of Australia in the finals of the National Doubles Championship at the Longwood Cricket Club in Brookline, Massachusetts. Hode serves. Out, U.S. point. Trabert serving in the bitterly fought match with the teams tied at 1 set each. The Aussies point, but there's thunder and magic in the Americans' rackets as they roam far and wide in the near court. U.S. point with the Aussies on the run, but watch Hode's behind-the-back return. Now Trabert serving on match point. Rosewall nets his return, and the Americans win a 4-set thriller. The first all-U.S. team to win the title since 1948. America's top tennis tandem, Tony Trabert and Vic Seixas.
Born in Philadelphia in 1923, Elias Victor Seixas, better known simply as Vic, had one of the most enduring careers in tennis history.
I played in the U.S. Open when I was 17, over 100 matches in singles. From 1940 to 1969, I missed 2 years during the war, World War II, I was in the service.
After missing several years of competition, Vic went from fighting for freedom to fighting for the biggest singles title of his career at Wimbledon in 1953.
I think if you asked any tennis player, the one tournament they would want to win, if they could only win one, it would be Wimbledon. I remember match point. I remember the tournament like it was yesterday, and that was a long time ago. To me, it was a thrill of my life in tennis, and I still think that's the greatest tournament of them all.
Perhaps the most memorable matches of Vic's career came in the form of team competition. The Davis Cup. Seixas represented the United States from 1951 to 1957, a time when a nearly unstoppable force from down under dominated the Davis Cup.
Back in the 50s and 60s, the Australians were dominating the game, and some of the Davis Cup matches that we had with them were fantastic matches. They beat us most of the time, but we got to the finals every year. But as they say, the Australians pretty much dominated it for about 10 or 12 years. Tony Trabert and I had played for 2 or 3 years, and we lost in 1953 to Ken Rosewall and Lou Hode, the Australians, and we swore up and down that we were going to win it next year. So we spent a whole year preparing for that Davis Cup match in 1954, and fortunately that was the year we did win it.
Victor Seixas, 32 years old, broke the Rosewall hoodoo.
That was the second most thrilling part of tennis for me, was winning the Davis Cup.
Today, Vic is the oldest living male major champion. An improbable career spanning 30 years, Vic Seixas captured 15 major titles, including singles victories at Wimbledon and the U.S. Championships. He led his country to a Davis Cup and cemented his legacy as one of the most prolific talents ever to play the game.
I think I was very fortunate, very lucky, and I had as good a tennis career as I did, and I can't be more thankful.
What do you think is really wrong with the game of tennis today?
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with it that a few good players wouldn't help. We've heard an awful lot about changing the scoring system and the dimensions of the court. I think, frankly, that's not what's wrong with the game. If anything could be helped along or criticized, I think perhaps we could do something to uniform the surface of the game.
Is that throughout the world?
Throughout the world. I think that would be constructive rather than trying to remedy the problem that we face by changing the rules. I don't think that's necessary. But as I said before, there's nothing wrong with the game that a few good players wouldn't help along.
Well, that's some very good advice, Vic. Let me ask you, why did you not turn professional over the years?
Well, Keith, everyone has their own reasons, I think, for playing any sport. Mine was never to make a living out of tennis. I've always enjoyed it as a sport. I had certain accomplishments that I hoped to attain and did attain to a certain degree, so I just preferred to play the game for the fun of it and to make my living in some other endeavor.
Why don't we have any upcoming youngsters in the East Coast in tennis?
Well, I think we hear many things about the weather being better in the West, and I think, however, the main reason most of the good players over the years have come from the West is the fact that there's been more tennis interest out there and a greater number of players to help to develop the young players. However, we have had some good players from the East in recent years, and of course a lot of the Californians are transplanted Easterners, really, so I don't think it's fair to say that we haven't had our share in recent years, at least.
Vic Seixas, thank you very much for joining us on this tennis program.
Pleasure.
All right, this is a good one, kids. This is
good.
Of all ages. This is a good one, okay? So tennis's U.S. Open winds down this weekend. There is a fella that I just met here in the Bay Area who at one time was a singles and doubles absolute king with an awesome distinction. Let's take it to Mill Valley. When somebody says, hey, there's Vic Seixas, he's the oldest living Grand Slam champion. How does that affect you?
Well, I'm proud of it, but I'd rather be the youngest.
95-year-old Vic Seixas. And here was Seixas in 1953 at Wimbledon. Near court versus Kurt Nielsen to win the singles title. The Mill Valley resident came back in 1954 and won the U.S. Open. Priceless moments. But try and put a dollar figure on what he's done. 1953, you win Wimbledon. And just as a comparison, this year's champion won $2.97 million. What did you win in 1953?
Well, Vern, I got a 25-pound voucher, which was worth about $75 at the time. And I had to spend it in a certain store in Piccadilly, and I had to buy something connected with tennis. I got a sweater.
Oh my gosh, oh my God. So then the next year, 1954, you win the U.S. Open. This year's champion, $3.8 million.
Yeah.
What did you win in 1954?
Well, I didn't even get a voucher in 1954. Nothing. Zero.
Most afternoons, you'll find him and his memorabilia at the Harbor Point Club. There's a replica of the Wimbledon trophy. To him, his greatest achievement.
That's the one tournament that any tennis player would want to win. I think that's the first one.
Seixas played for the love of the game. There really was nothing else.
I don't expect to be remembered, but I know what I did, and I know I enjoyed it, and I'm very thankful that I was able to give so much time of my life to tennis.
Yeah, what a terrific guy. Vic and the gang over at the club at Harbor Point. I know you're watching. Ranked as high as #3 in the world. He did play for the love of the game. Played into his 50s. The only thing that really slowed him down was his knees.
Wow.
He looks fantastic.
You got a lot.
1923, Philadelphia, right? Tell me a little bit about
Born in 1923 in Philadelphia, suburb of Philadelphia. And I started playing tennis when I was about 5 years old. My father was a mediocre club player, and we belonged to a little community club right where we lived. And I used to go over with him and chase the balls, and they hit them over the fence, and afterwards they hit with me a little bit, so I could practice it. So, when I got to be 10 years old, I played my first tournament. And it was a men's tournament, a local tournament in Philadelphia, just a small tournament. And the first guy I played was named Sam Pruitt. He was about 23, 24 years old, something like that. Anyway, I beat him. And he was so disgusted losing to a 10-year-old. He threw his rackets in the closet and quit the game for life. 20 years later, I won Wimbledon. And Sam went in the closet and got his rackets out and started playing again. He said, that wasn't such a bad loss after all.